On July 20th, 1969, humanity supposedly took its first steps on another world. It was a moment that defined the entire 20th century. But for more than 50 years now, a single nagging question has refused to go away. Did it actually happen? So today, we're going to take a hard look at one of history's greatest achievements through the very real framework of psychological operations and see if the arguments for it being one big lie actually hold any water.
I know, it's a provocative question, right? For some people, it's downright insulting. But the skepticism isn't just about a few grainy photos or a flag that looks like it's flapping in the wind. No, it's rooted in the incredibly high-stakes era of the Cold War, and frankly, a very real, very documented history of government deception. To really understand the doubt, first, we have to understand the world of 1969.
All right, so to really get into this, we have to go back in time. The world back then wasn't just a collection of countries, it was essentially two opposing teams locked in a brutal battle, where reality itself was the prize. Yeah, the Cold War wasn't just about spies and nuclear weapons. At its heart, it was a psychological conflict. It was what they call a zero-sum competition, which means any win for them was a devastating loss for you and vice versa. Propaganda was king, and it painted this stark, black and white picture of the world. Your entire way of life was on the line.
And this is how they fought that war, by weaponizing information. I mean, look at this. On one side, you have the US using outlets like Voice of America to beam messages of democracy deep into the Soviet bloc. And on the other, the Soviets are using their state-run newspapers like Pravda to project this image of a perfect communist utopia. This was a full-scale battle for hearts and minds, playing out on a global stage.
So when you're fighting a war where perception is the main battlefield, you need a weapon designed specifically for that. And that weapon has a name, the psychological operation, or as it's better known, the PSYOP.
Okay, and this definition right here, it's absolutely key. A PSYOP isn't just regular old propaganda, it's a formal military and intelligence tactic. It's the strategic, deliberate control of perception designed to make people do something, whether that's getting enemy soldiers to surrender or getting your own citizens to support a war. The goal is always to shape what you do by controlling what you believe.
So, how do you even spot one of these things in the wild? Well, it turns out documented PSYOPs tend to follow a pattern, kind of like a toolkit for deception. You gotta ask yourself a few questions. Is the timing almost too perfect politically? Is it playing on your strongest emotions? Pride, fear, patriotism? Is the message coming at you from every official channel, all saying the exact same thing? Are you being told to trust only one source of authority? And maybe the biggest red flag of all is anyone who disagrees or asks questions immediately shut down, ridiculed, or silenced. Because if you have to silence people for your idea to work, you might be in the middle of a PSYOP.
Now you might be thinking, this all sounds a little out there, a bit hypothetical. But it's not. The use of massive, elaborate deceptions by governments isn't a theory. It's a documented historical fact. These are the precedents. Take this, for example. Back in 1990, a 15-year-old girl named Nayyirah gave this absolutely horrifying testimony to the US Congress about Iraqi soldiers ripping babies out of incubators. It was gut-wrenching, and it was a total lie. Turns out, she was the daughter of the Kuwaiti ambassador, and the whole thing was cooked up by a PR firm to sell the American people on the First Gulf War. It was pure emotional manipulation, and you know what? It worked like a charm.
Or how about this one? During the Vietnam War, the US military learned about a deeply held Vietnamese belief that a person's soul can't find peace without a proper burial. So what did they do? They created these terrifying audio tapes of ghosts of fallen soldiers wailing and begging their living comrades to just go home. They played these tapes over loudspeakers in the jungle at night. I mean, think about that, weaponizing someone's deepest cultural and spiritual beliefs to break their will to fight.
And hey, these deceptions aren't just for the military. For decades, the tobacco industry knew their products caused cancer, but instead of trying to deny it, they did something far more brilliant. They launched their own PSYOP. They funded bogus research, hired their own scientists, all to create confusion. Their goal wasn't to prove cigarettes were safe. It was just to make sure no one could ever be 100% certain they were dangerous. As this internal memo chillingly states, their real product wasn't tobacco, it was doubt.
And honestly, the rabbit hole goes way, way deeper. You have MKUltra, the CIA's infamous mind control program where they gave LSD to unsuspecting people. Project Midnight Climax, where they literally used prostitutes to lure guys into safe houses so they could be drugged and studied. And yes, actual documented efforts to create Manchurian candidates, programmable assassins.
So the main point here is crucial. The idea that intelligence agencies would engage in massive, complex deceptions isn't a crazy theory. It's just history.
Okay, so we've got the Cold War context. We have a clear framework for what a PSYOP looks like. And we have some pretty disturbing historical proof that these things happen. Now, let's turn that lens directly onto the Apollo program.
This is it. This is the central question. If you look at the moon landing through the skeptical lens we've just built, how does it hold up? Let's break it down indicator by indicator.
All right, let's look at this through a skeptic's eyes. You run Apollo through this checklist, and wow, it starts to look, well, it fits pretty neatly. Strategic timing? A win in the space race was a massive ideological blow to the Soviets. Check. Emotional manipulation? One giant leap for mankind. That's maybe the most powerful, pride-inducing phrase in modern history. Check. Uniform messaging? Every single TV network showed the exact same feed from NASA. No alternative view is even possible. Check. Authority pressure? The only people telling the story were the government, NASA, and the astronauts themselves. Check. And finally, suppression of dissent. From day one, anyone who questioned the story was immediately branded a kook or a conspiracy nut. Check.
And for the real deep dive skeptics, even the symbolism feels like a clue hidden in plain sight. This quote from the researcher Bart Sibrel points out that one of the biblical names for the devil is Apollyon, which is Greek for Apollo. He argues it's this kind of dark, ironic joke, that mankind's greatest achievement is secretly mankind's greatest lie.
But, and this is a huge but, then you have the physical evidence. While skeptics point to things like missing original tapes or weird shadows in photos, the counter-evidence is just formidable. First off, it wasn't just NASA listening. Independent radio operators all over the world, including in the Soviet Union, America's #1 enemy, tracked the signals and confirmed they were coming from the moon. Second, they brought back hundreds of pounds of moon rocks, and scientists from all over the planet have studied them. Their chemistry is unlike anything found on Earth. And finally, in just the last few years, our own orbiters have taken super high-resolution pictures of the landing sites. You can literally see the landers, the rovers, and even the astronauts' footprints, still there, untouched.
So, where does all of this leave us? You know, this whole debate is about so much more than just a trip to the moon. It taps right into a much bigger conflict we're all dealing with today, the battle for what's real.
When you weigh it all up, the third-party tracking, the unique moon rocks, the photos from orbit, the verifiable physical evidence is just overwhelming. The scientific and historical consensus is that the landings absolutely happened. But as we've seen, the arguments from the skeptics, they don't just come from nowhere.
And this, right here, is maybe the most important takeaway of all. The moon hoax theory survives not because there's a lack of evidence for the landing, but because there is an absolute mountain of evidence of other government deceptions. The distrust is earned. When people know for a fact about things like MKUltra and the Naira testimony, the question in their minds changes from, would they really lie about something this big? To, is there anything they wouldn't lie about?
Which brings us right back to our world today. We've spent this time breaking down the anatomy of a 20th century PSYOP. But honestly, the propaganda machines of the Cold War look almost charmingly old-fashioned compared to the world of deep fakes and AI we live in now. If a deception on the scale of the moon landing were launched today, with the technology we have, would we even have a clue? That might be the most important question of all.